it will open the gate, and there is a chances of glucose entering into the cell. So once the glucose is enter into the cell, then only it will be utilized as an energy, and the remaining portion it will be liberated as a thermal energy through skin, through respiration, all this process. For this process, we require 10 coenzyme. Without those 10 coenzyme, it is not possible of converting glucose into pyruvate into energy reservoir for the working muscle. So the glycolysis start with metabolism. The metabolism has to initiate the glycolysis. For this glycolytic process, uh, it will be carried in the mitochondria, cytosol. The cytosol only it will carry start in the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm has to carry the glucose into glycerate, pyruvate, and Krebs cycle with and then finally, after entering into the Krebs cycle, the the energy is very limited, 12 ATP, and uh, the system has to initiate the multiply the adenosine triphosphate, so that it will enter into the electron transport chain. Electron transport chain has to contribute hydrogen ion to magnify the or manipulate or increase the ATP production and the electron transport chain. So this complete process we used to call it as a metabolic process, and specifically today we are going to discuss about only glycolysis in this presentation. In Tamil culture, we have so many Idigasm and philosophies. In fourth century, the great saint Thiruvalluvar says there are so many things under Maruthuva Adhigaram. The stands is 944. அற்றது அறிந்து கடைபிடித்து மாறல்ல துய்க்க துவர பசித்து. That means, see, some of the food which is not suitable for your health, some of the food is very good for your gene and metabolic process. So we have to find out which is more suitable for your physical ability. So within that, which one is more suitable, and the balancing diet. So based on that, if you consume those food, if it is digested properly without any problem, then you should not change much on that particular food item. So if you take the food within 3 to 4 hours, if it is digested, definitely you could feel that you'll have some hunger. After hunger, if you take some variety of food which is more related to your gene and your body, definitely there will be no problem of in glycolytic process. There is no problem in the problem of hyperglycemic activity and hyper cholesterol. So whenever you consume any kind of food, definitely it will be stored as a glucose. If glucose is not utilized, definitely it will be converted as a glycogen. Glycogen, if it is full, definitely it will be converted as a cholesterol. So see, you can see, அற்றது அறிந்து கடைபிடித்து மாறல்ல துய்க்க தூர பசித்து. This concept we used to call it as a genomic food. Nowadays, genomic food is very, very essential and more needed food for at present culture. So in the 4th century, Thiruvalluvar clearly identified and given some solution for this problem also. And second, மருந்தென வேண்டாவும் யாக்கைக்கு அருந்தியது அற்றது போற்றி one. Once if you take some food, it is not related to your genomic food, definitely after hunger only you should go for next phase of food. So, based on the timing, if you eat well and sleep well, means definitely it will be a problem of metabolic disorder and glycolytic problem. So these two stanza, it will tells you everything how we can select the food, consume the food, and digest the food. If there is any problem, definitely you can overcome all those things. That's why the Indian culture, especially Tamil culture, is worldwide is very very famous. A natural nutritive item, and as well as yogic practices and Indian culture, traditional culture. Nowadays, it is very famous worldwide. And let us go for metabolic system. So metabolism is nothing but the inclusion of two processes, catabolism and anabolism. The catabolism is nothing but when you take some kind of food, it will be digested right from your mouth. It will mix with the saliva, and it has to travel along with the esophageal layer and the small intestine, large intestine. It will convert the food, crush the food from rough into smooth, smooth into semi-smooth, semi-liquid, and liquid, ultra-liquid. Then these food nutrient is transfer from through small villi into bloodstream. The blood has to travel all nook and corner of your body because of your circulatory process, systemic circulatory process, and then finally it will reach us to near to the tissue. Once the insulin is secreted in the tissue, definitely the GLUT4 it will open, and these macronutrient is enter into the cellular activity. So the remaining portion we used to call it as a, this is called a anabolic reaction. Anabolic reaction is nothing but the protein is converted into amino acid. This amino acid is utilized to form a muscle and strengthen the muscle, and the contraction ability it will increase because of the amino acid. Because of amino acid and protein, your actin and myosin it will get strengthened and coordinate during your physical activity. A very good muscle can spend much amount of glucose which is excessively present in the blood. Then second thing is the glucose is converted as an energy reservoir for all your functional ability, physical, physiological. So for better working muscle, it require more amount of energy. This energy is derived from glucose and carbohydrate and food intake. Then third portion is glycerol, fat converted as a glycerol and fatty acid. This fatty acid is converted as a lipid. These lipid is very very essential. Make up your internal organ very good. It will work as a shock absorber. It will increase immunoglobulin. It will increase the functional ability of intercellular space. And sometimes if there is any problem in the system, definitely lipid has to contribute to overcome those injury nature. So this is about the metabolism. If metabolism if there is no problem, means definitely there will be no problem in converting the glucose into pyruvate. So next thing is the glycogen is derived some glucose. This glucose has to enter into the further process. So the metabolism is released glucose. The glucose has to enter into the glycolytic process. The first phase of glucose is combined with phosphate. The phosphate is third stage is converted into, glucose is converted into fructose. This fructose with help of some coenzyme, it will be converted as a glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. This up to this the energy investment phase, we have to include some ATP. 2 ATP we have to spend to initiate this process. And second phase is energy harvesting stage. In this stage, the glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate release, adding one more, 1,3 biphosphoglycerate is combined. It is a triphosphate. When this triphosphate is released, one phosphate and releasing energy, and third level also it will releasing energy. Finally, it will be converted as a pyruvate with help of 10 coenzymes. So this is without oxygen. It will carry out. The second phase is it is very simple. It will be entered into Krebs cycle as a acetyl CoA in citric acid, citrate. Okay, this citrate is converted as a ketoglutarate, succinate, fumarate, oxalate. So these cyclic process, it will run entire period of metabolic process. So at the end of metabolic process, you will get some 12 ATP. These 12 ATP has to explore, so that it will enter into the Krebs cycle. I mean electron transport chain. The electron transport chain, it will inclusion of most of the hydrogen atom, and NAD it will release some energy, FAD it will release energy, and again FAD is converted and releasing energy. So at the end of glycolytic process, you will get a 36 energy molecule. It's all because of glycolytic process. So total process of glycolysis is nothing but glycolysis. The glucose is converted into pyruvate. It will release 2 ATP, and it will enter into acetyl CoA, and the acetyl CoA enter into the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle is ready to release 12 ATP, and again it will be transferred into one more phase, that is called electron transport chain. When electron transport chain is run without any disturbance with some coenzymes, definitely it will release 36 energy molecule for working muscle. So this is the total concept. It will be easy to understand, and this is a simple information about the glycolytic process. So glycolytic process is nothing but already I told you, glucose is converted into pyruvate, and the pyruvate can be converted as a acetyl CoA, enter into the Krebs cycle. This is the process where the another combination is glucose 6 carbon compound is converted into pyruvate 3 carbon compound, 2 pyruvate 3 carbon compound. This is because of 10 continuous chemical reaction with 10 steps with 10 coenzymes. Okay, so next is this entire glycolytic experimental is done by embedded Maharoff Parnas or EMF pathway. It is honor of pioneer work in the field of exercise physiology or physiology. Okay, the person who is coined this glycolysis and process everything. It is the credit is the total credit is goes to the EMF pathway and the father of EMF. Then second, glycolysis take place with oxygen, without oxygen. With oxygen means there is no problem. I mean Krebs cycle, it will start, it will release 36 energy molecule, and without oxygen means it will carry the lactic acid formation without oxygen. So without oxygen it will carry, but the time is very short, and the releasing energy also very short. So the metabolism has to convert the glucose with the help of oxygen, means you will get a lot of energy. And third point is this glycolysis is prelude to citric acid cycle, and then finally enter into the transport electron transport chain, which together release most of the energy contained in glucose. So when you split the glucose, definitely you will get a lot of energy. To pyruvate, it will enter into the Krebs cycle in the form of acetyl CoA. So what is glycolysis? Glycolysis is very simple process. It will broke down into form a energy. For working muscle, you need lot of energy. Those energy is derived from glucose only, either in the form of Krebs cycle or lactic acid cycle. Only these two way only we can utilize glucose and glucose as a pyruvate. So at the end of this process, you will get two molecules of pyruvate, two molecules of ATP, two molecules of NADH, two molecules of water, and with the presence and absence of oxygen, it will carry. We know very well, and the process take place in the cytosol in the cytoplasm. So the entire glycolytic process, it will carry it within the cell only. So glucose is outside. So when the glucose need to enter into the cell, means we have to release some insulin. The once the insulin is received by the cell, then it will open the glut4, then only it is possible. So this is Arabic respiration, where the glycolysis glucose is converted as a pyruvate. Pyruvate enter into the citric acid cycle. The citric acid cycle has to pass the further process for oxidative phosphorylation. Oxidative phosphorylation only will at the end of oxidative phosphorylation only will get lot of energy for your working muscle. So whenever you do some kind of exercise, definitely you can consume more volume of glucose from your blood, so that you will be more active. You can do whatever the physical hurdles you needed for your day-to activities. Definitely it will supply. So see, there are two reservoir: glycolysis and citric acid cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation. This is very small area. This is big one. This is a bigger one. So with the if you understand well, definitely you can able to overcome all your physical need during a tough time in the competition or any other physical activity. So this entire process is carried in the cytosol which is present in the cell. It is away from the mitochondrial function. So the glycolytic process is away from the mitochondrial. The after pyruvate, it will enter into the acetyl CoA, definitely Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain. Finally, it will release the energy molecule. So the process is very simple. Glucose with 6 carbon molecule is converted into two major portion, that is pyruvate with a 3 carbon atom, pyruvate with a 3 carbon atom. These pyruvate is derived from glucose only. So the once the glucose is not, it cannot be utilized by your mitochondria, because the glucose consists of 6 carbon molecule, whereas 3 carbon glucose only can be utilized by your mitochondrial action. So total process of glucose converted into pyruvate is very simple. This is glucose structure, where you can see base 1, base 2, base 3, base 4, 5 and 6. This combination, it is going to convert into two different format. I mean two similar format, that is called pyruvate with the 3 carbon, pyruvate with the 3 carbon. In this process, we will get 2 NAD, 2 2 ATP and water, everything we will get it. So with the pyruvate, we cannot do anything. We have to move the process further. Okay. So glycolysis we can divide into two process. First, energy investing phase and energy payoff phase. In energy investing phase, investment phase, we have to include 2 ATP to move the process further and consume energy. This stage we have to include some energy to motivate your system to carry out the glycolytic process. So step 1 to 5, it will be come under energy investment phase, and second thing is payoff phase. In this phase, the glucose and phosphate from glucose, the triphosphate will be released, so that the energy will be liberated from glucose, so that those glucose can be utilized for your working muscle. This process is started from 6th to 10. So at this in 10 stages, what will happen? Energy investment phase, 5 different reaction, that is glucose converted into glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. For this process, you need 5 step. and 5 coenzyme, and we have to invest 2 ATP. Then only the glucose can be converted as a glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. These 3 phosphate will be enter into the payoff phase. Each and every I mean 7, 8, 9, 10th phase, it will release one phosphate, and the glucose straight away converted as a pyruvate. And whenever the phosphate is released from glucose, definitely there will be a releasing of ATP, NAD, and FADH. So at the end of this phase, you will get some energy for ATP to NADH. So it will be a big resources for your working muscle. So energy investment phase, the first phase is nothing but the glucose has to combine with phosphate and make it as a glucose 6 phosphate. So the glucose alone cannot give you much energy, and phosphate cannot give you much energy for working muscle. It has to combine together and make it as a glucose phosphate, glucose 6 phosphate. Then the glucose 6 phosphate is isomerase, and it will be converted as a fructose 6 phosphate. And third stage, the fructose 6 phosphate is converted into 1 6 biphosphate. In this stage, one more phosphate has to added in this stage. And fourth phase is one more phosphate is split from, and it will create 3 carbon sugars, that is called dihydroxynate phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, and it will enter into fifth stage. Dihydroxy actone phosphate is converted into glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. These glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate only enter into energy payoff phase. I think I mean sixth phase is two half reaction occurred simultaneously. One is glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, and NAD is reduced into NADH. So in this phase, you could I mean you will get some energy. And seventh phase, one phosphate group is liberated from this group, so that energy will be liberated from seventh and eighth and ninth and up to ninth stage. Each and every phase, it will release one phosphate and release the energy. Finally it will be phosphoenol pyruvate. Finally phosphate will be released, and pyruvate can be generated in new form. This pyruvate, it will enter into the Krebs cycle. So glycolysis enzyme. So already I told you, there are two phase: energy investment phase and energy payoff phase. Energy investment phase, there are 5 different coenzymes: the hexokinase, phosphoglucoisomerase, phosphofructokinase, aldolase, and triose isomerase. See, you can see hexokinase, it will fusion of phosphate and glucose, and phosphotriose, it will consist of 3 phosphate. So in energy payoff phase, uh, the 6th, 7th, and 8th phase, these coenzymes is going to release one phosphate and releasing energy. The 6th stage, glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate dehydrogenase. Dehydrogenase means it will hydrate and releasing one phosphate. Phosphoglycerate kinase, it will release one more phosphate. The phosphoglycerate mutase, it will release one more phosphate. And finally enolase is formed, and finally pyruvate kinases create a pyruvate for next process of Krebs cycle. So already mentioned the carbon atom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 base is there. This 6 base, if it is changed with phosphate and other components, definitely the glucose is formed. There is a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, base 5 and base 6. Okay, so this is called glucose. This glucose is going to detach water, hydrogen, ATP, ADP, and FADH. These things, it is going to attach, detach, and regulate the entire portion. That's why we call it as a glycolytic process. So investment payoff phase is nothing. It's very simple process. Glucose with 6 carbon. We have to include one ATP. The ATP is released to one phosphate. Those phosphate is joined with glucose. So glucose can be finally converted as a two pyruvate. One pyruvate with 3 carbon. Another pyruvate with 3 carbon. In this process, two NAD, two ATP, and two water molecule is released for further process. So this entire process net result is 36 energy molecule. And metabolism, actually the process, glycolytic process start with metabolism. Metabolism is nothing but anabolism and catabolism. Finally it reaches to glycolytic process. If the glycolytic process if there is no oxygen, definitely it will leads to without oxygen as a uh, lactic acid formation. This cycle very limited, and but at the same time it's a very powerful energy releasing capacity without oxygen. So if the person is going to run very fast within a minute, means definitely this is the best cycle for contributing more energy and powerful contraction of actin and myosin. Suppose if oxygen is present, then there will be no problem, and Krebs cycle it will initiate and magnify. I mean explore the ATP, and it will up to 12 ATP, and those 12 ATP enter into the electron transport chain. The electron transport chain, again there is a three phase. Those three phase through three coenzyme is present in this process, and finally it will release 36 energy molecule for working muscle. So if so the person is decided to go for without a diabetic or moderate body weight, definitely they should concentrate metabolic process and glycolytic process. Then there will be no excess blood cholesterol and blood glucose in the blood. So the excess may be utilized for your working muscle. So if muscle is working properly and doing proper exercise, definitely you could reach a constant body weight, and without any disturbance, without any deformities, without any side effect for your working muscle. So this is the best way where you can learn, and you can maintain your own body proportion. Okay, whenever you eat something extra, you just go for exercise. Whenever there is no work, you just concentrate on your food. So as suggested by through you just go keep concentrating on genomic food and the metabolic process. If you concentrate these two area, definitely you can achieve a wonder on your lifespan. You can extended, you can get extended lifespan. You can live very well without any disturbance, with happily. Thank you. We'll continue for energy investment phase in next video. Till that, thank you, bye.